Hello, everybody. We are live, and thank you for tuning in. Hope to see a few people this morning. This is my first actual stream done with Marilyn's coaching and John's a little bit. Uh, so today our topic is NDEs, near-death experiences. My first guest, John Poe, and I'm extremely excited to have him on here because he's somebody we know. If you don't know him, you will soon, but I'm very eager to hear his story. And I've got a couple other people that have come forward and volunteered to give their stories in the future. So this is the first shot at doing this, and I'm very excited. I'll hand the reins over to John in a second. I just want to acknowledge a few people that have tuned in on my side. I see Creepy B5 is on here. Hello. Love it. And Love it actually is another that has had a near death experience, and I'm hoping to interview her at some point not too far from now. Um, okay, we've got the inappropriate heifer. Hello, welcome, Miss Sunrise. Great, you're aboard. Kitchen Witch Suzanne. Hello. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Pup Groomer. So everybody that's tuned in, thank you for tuning in. I hope you find this interesting and exciting. Oh, Kelly. Very cool. So this is super. Yeah, Mare is in the background. She's going to be tagging and flagging and starring and all those good things. So hello, everybody that's on there. So at this point, I'm going to hand this over to John, and I'm very eager to hear his story.
Well,
And
excellent.
here we go.
Well, first off, want to congratulate you on making the step and coming on over and starting your own channel. I know a lot of people have been wanting to hear from your side of it as well. And in my case, my wife doesn't want anything to do with social media, so there's no chance you're going to get her on any of these. But it's nice to see because it helps to round out the package. We all know Marilyn, we love Marilyn, and we've gotten brief glimpses with you and everything. And then you're nice enough to come on my channel to do one of the car talks with me, and it just makes things a lot nicer. And now you have your channel, so it's like the family just keeps growing day after day.
Yeah, it
So
was a lot of fun. I'm a lucky man. I got Marilyn to encourage and coach and tutor me because I'm kind of Nimrod at this so far, but
you're
I'm
going to
enjoying
get there.
it a lot. So I'm excited.
And that's how I was. Like we were talking backstage, it's a matter of repetition. The more you get to know it, the easier it's going to get. You'll be able to start switching in between everything and doing what you need to do. As as long as you don't start doing as many as Aaron does a day, you should be all right. So I don't think you'll ever get anything done otherwise.
Nope.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just looking. Oh, Maggots here, Susie Q. Yeah, that's good. That's real good for a first stream for you. Yeah, and thank you, Miss Sunrise. Hit that like button, everybody. Make sure you're showing some love to Duncan here. This is it's a great start to his channel. I'm really honored to be here. So yeah, and if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that as well. So what do you want to know from me?
If you don't mind, I mean, what I would, I mean, I've listened to a lot of, I've been listening to hundreds of these NDE
Mhm.
stories from other people, nobody that yet that I've actually known. So I like the raw, uncensored, unedited, kind of chronological story just being told raw, and then implications and applications and other details, especially the takeaway that people have had. I mean, I want to say too is John, in my opinion, is been a tough guy, a monster truck guy, a cop, a police chief. So John's a man's man. He's not somebody that's making up stories. He's not going to give a warped version of it. The stories I like the best are when people just, regular guys, just or women, whatever, tell it like it is, the way it happened, what they experienced, and then afterward what their takeaway is. Because not only I look at John as a tough guy kind of guy if he wants to be, but on the other hand, I see a huge amount of compassion and empathy and very positive outlook on life, the desire to help people. And that is a very typical takeaway from NDEers that have come back from the other side, and they've been changed. They've had a very positive outlook. They want to help people. And I mean, I can at some point maybe summarize some of the common characteristics of NDEs, but I don't want to interrupt John or take
Oh,
away any of his time. So I'm more interested to hear his story and what he has to say because he's got experience with this. Everything I know I've taken by way of, I haven't had this happen to me, but I thoroughly believe in it because, I've listened to hundreds of stories, and they are corroborated by documents going back thousands of years, including the Bible and other things. There's so many things that people have had these experiences and recorded or reported them. And in the, 30, 40 years ago, they would shoot people out with Haldol or just tell them they were crazy. Shut up, need more drugs. You couldn't happen. Your, soul is only a product of your body functioning and all this stuff, which has been completely debunked, in my opinion. So, I'm eager to hear a firsthand story. So I'll stop talking and I'll let John take over.
Well, I'll tell you, and most of the stuff, like when it comes to the incidents in my life, I'm more likely to play it down than I am build it up. Even though I'm on YouTube and I like to, love doing this stuff. I don't make it about me. I try to make it more about the people that are coming on my channel that are being part of the family. So sometimes it's a little difficult to do it. I've done a lot of things that have put me into the public eye, but I've always done things under the pretense of I'm trying to do what's best for society and for the community around me. So, to start it, you got to go back to basically the beginning. I was, I grew up born into a Eastern Kentucky Appalachian coal mining family. And we've spent the good majority of our summers down in Kentucky at my grandmother's property down there. And, I would help her with her garden, tending to the property and everything. We always knew that there were snakes around. I'd never actually encountered any real snakes other than the black snakes, things like that. And so one day I'm out with my grandmother. We're in the garden. We're picking tomatoes off of the plants. And suddenly I felt a stinging sensation in my left index finger. And I jerked back and I was rubbing my finger, and my grandmother, called her Mama. She came over and she's like, Johnny, what's the matter? I said, Mama, something stuck me. And she goes, well, there's nothing in this garden. It's go sticky, Johnny. I go, Mama, something stuck me and it's burning me real bad. And she took a look at it and she saw the two little pinpricks on my finger. Well, she called to my uncle and he come running over. He saw it. Yeah, instantly pulled out the knife, did the cross hatch on there and started sucking on it. My grandmother pushed the plant back with the hoe, and up underneath the plant was a copperhead, and got rushed off to the hospital. And the crazy thing is that we were so remote. My grandfather was sheriff of the county, and they got him over and threw me in the back of his squad car, and him going lights and sirens like a bat out of Hades. It still took 45 minutes to get me to a hospital. By the time we got to the hospital, my finger had grown almost twice its size, and it was a severe red turning to purple at that point. And I just remember at some point it felt like someone had actually cut my finger open and had stuck hot coals from a barbecue under my skin. And I ended up spending a few days in the hospital. At one point, my arm had swollen to almost 3 times its size, and they had to make lacerations on my arm to keep the skin from exploding outward. And, of course, we were using antivenom. It's nowhere when what the antivenom is nowadays in the potency or the ability to fend off on these bites, but it worked. I do have problems. I mean, if you look at my hand, most of the time, my left hand, it has all these weird like crack lines in it that look almost like a road map on the back of my hand. My hand the skin is always dry, and I have a lot of almost arthritic kind of pains in my first 2 digits there. And after that, I had no fear of snakes whatsoever. Matter of fact, we used to have old family movies where, the old Super 8s, where a friend of mine and I would go out with a 5-gallon bucket. They were pickle buckets we got from a local restaurant. We would go out and spend the entire day running the hills. When we would come home in the evening just before dark, that pickle bucket would be full of copperheads, rattlesnakes, and if we could get them, water moccasin. And it just began a love with snakes that I had. It's a matter of, a lot of people think that if you're going to do this, you have to fear snakes. I don't fear them. I'm amazed by them. I love the nature, the science, the biology of snakes. You know, to me, it became a matter of I wanted to do something that, you know, I could work with snakes, and I needed to learn. Uh, so, you know, it spawned into a love of other reptiles as well. At 12 years old, I got my first alligator. I had it for about 2 weeks, and it ended up dying because I didn't know how to take care of it. Hey, it's all right, Lisa. You don't have to like them, but you know, the thing is that we all have our. I'm terrified of spiders. Spiders will freak me out. I'm got to kill them as soon as I see them. Back goat. I was 9 years old when I got that bite. And it was fortunate for me because I was able to get to a hospital in time, get the treatment. It stopped me from losing my finger, hand, or arm. But as I said, it developed this lack of just complete phobia of snakes. And it made me, you know, just turn into someone who's absolutely fascinated by them. Well, after my alligator had died, you know, and I'd saved up a bunch of money from doing mowing lawns, things like that. And I went to, you know, my dad actually, it's amazing for how brutal and mean he could be. He actually went out and got me another one. But this time he took me to the Cincinnati Zoo, and through some connections that he had, he got me in there volunteering on the weekends so I could learn about reptiles and how to do what's called husbandry, which is taking care of reptiles that are in your care. And so I grew up, and as I'm going there, I'm learning more and more and more about reptiles. Of course, they're not you know, I'm a teenager. They're not letting me in there and deal with any of them that could be dangerous. Thank you, Kelly. And so as things kept going, my friend that I grew up with, he went on to get his doctorate in biology, and is a pretty well known herpetologist now. And I used to go and work with him generally on the weekends. And what I would do was called venom extraction, or milking venomous snakes. And basically, you'd be in a room, and the way that a lot of them do it is they'll have a big glass wall in front of them so people can sit out there and watch you doing the venom extractions. And I would do anywhere from 100 to 200 snakes a day, no problem. Sometimes more than that, depending on the species of snake that we're dealing with. You know, certain ones, like if I'm dealing with copperheads are really easy to deal with. Banded kraits, one of the most toxic snakes in the world, very easy to deal with, very low bite rate from them. And, you know, if I'm dealing with those, it's generally going to be one of those easy days where I'm going to milk probably 250 snakes in a day's time, because I can literally just, you know, with banded kraits, you can literally just reach in and grab them right out of their crate, because they're so rare to bite. As a matter of fact, the only bites I really know of with them are generally when people are trying to feed them and they're doing it the wrong way, and they've handled the food and they're doing something within the enclosure, and the snake senses that food smell on them and ends up biting them. And I think they have something like a 93% fatality rate for those who are bitten by the banded kraits. But the thing is that you get to the point where you get so used to them, and you start being able to read how the animals react and everything. And it's more a bit, I don't consider it comfort. I just feel that it's, you know, it's knowledge and it's experience. And, you know, I certainly wouldn't do that with a taipan, or a rattlesnake, or a water moccasin even, because they're just wholly unpredictable, and their strikes are so unbelievably fast. It's not funny. Let's see. You know, Marilyn, we've talked about it before. I've actually been to snake handling churches in Kentucky and Virginia, so I've seen how they do that. Uh, One of the days I got there, and I knew it was going to be a fun day because it was a Hana day, and uh, that comes from the name Ophiophagus Hana, and Hana meaning king. Ophiophagus is the new definition of the king cobra. So I know it's going to be a fun one, because instead of bringing out racks of trays with snakes in it, they're bringing out 30, 40, 50-gallon Rubbermaid trash cans. And each one of them has a snake in it, anywhere from, I'd say, 8 foot all the way up to 15 foot for a king cobra. And when you're talking a 15-foot king cobra, its head's like that. It's huge. And so when you're trying to hold them, I mean, even with my big old meat hangers, it's sometimes hard to get a full grip on an adult male king cobra. Man, then you think about it, it's literally a rope that's not made of nothing but bone and muscle. So they can be quite a handful to deal with. And Marilyn, if you could pop up that picture of the wild king cobra on there, that will give you an idea, just how they are. And if you go on my channel, there's actually a video that I edited that was called Cobras in Bangkok. And yeah, there you go. That'll give you an idea. Um, King cobras I've had them with a nice size king cobra that's hooded up and standing over 4 foot high at the top of their head.
That's a
This
great.
one was probably around a 10 to 12 foot specimen. It was a Malaysian king cobra, and you can generally tell with those because they have that real nice ribbon banding all the way down their body, even through adulthood. Whereas your Thai king cobras and your Indian king cobras are going to stay mostly a mottled tan kind of look. Yeah, they're the largest venomous species of snake in the world, and they are very intimidating. But once you start getting to know them, king cobras would rather, most venomous snakes want to run or hide from you. They don't want anything. Let's see. Daniel, where are you at? I know here in Michigan, because we actually have a breeding pair right out back of my property. We have a breeding pair of Massasauga, which are a species of pygmy rattlesnake. We've got a breeding pair I know lives in the marshland behind us. Yeah, that was an absolutely beautiful snake. I got to work with it for about 15, 20 minutes before we let him go. He was actually just crossing the road. And so, yeah, you can go ahead and take that down. But, so here it is. I'm coming in. It's going to be one of those days. And I could tell when I walk in because they have Hana written on the dry erase board on the door. And so I come in and literally there are 20 Rubbermaid trash cans already waiting for me. And so I go in and I start off as I'm getting ready, getting all my equipment ready. I'm all set to go. You generally have a person that's an assistant, and what they're going to do is they're going to, every time that you do an extraction from a snake, there is a membrane. It's literally just like what do you call it stuff? The plastic wrap you put on food. It's like that, and you're going to put that. They put that over the top of the beaker where you're going to have the snake bite through, and then allow it to stream the venom into it. And so you generally have that. But on this day, I was asked if I would take in one of the college interns as well, and so we decided to let her work with copperheads and banded crates because those are nice, easy. They're not as apt to strike as other snakes. And I'd already talked about the banded cobras. I mean, about the banded crates. But she's working with them. Seems to be doing fine. Any questions she's got, just ask me. I'm, literally pop the lid off the Rubbermaid can with the snake hook, and I do that so that if the snake does try to come out, it gives me some room to at least get out of the way before anything can happen. And then, from that point, I'm going to hook them somewhere along their body, raise it up to enough to where I can get to the head. I'm going to take the head out and I'm going to pull the body out, and I literally just take it like a rope or a water hose or a fire hose and just swing it between my legs so I can help control them better by holding their body between my legs, because it literally takes both hands just to handle that upper portion of their body. Going to bring it over, and these snakes they've been through extraction so many times that when they see the beaker with the membrane over the top of it, they're already, you can see them actually the venom is starting to run out of their mouth like drool. And so when you just barely tap their nose to it, they'll bite right onto it and they start shooting the venom down into the beaker. And so everything was going as it should. I had opened the Rubbermaid on, I believe it was a 14 and a half, 15-foot king cobra. And I had brought him out. I was getting ready to bring him into the beaker, and I heard the intern scream. And I stopped and I looked over to see what was going on. And she was working with a copperhead, and it had wriggled free, and she thought it was going to bite her. So she screamed. I didn't realize it, but at the same time, the snake I'm working with has moved his head just enough that while I'm like this, I literally just feel a light tap on my left wrist, and I'm just like, oh shit. And I look down, and you could see the two bite points, and you could see gold, like a golden liquid, almost like a real thin honey, just running right out of the bite marks. I got the snake back into the Rubbermaid, shut it down, ran over, slammed the emergency button, and went right over to the first aid locker. Grabbed out. We've got bite kits there, and they have these suctions that you literally push it down on there like that, and as it's drawing itself back up with the springs, it's sucking, trying to suck as much venom out of you as it can. My buddy comes running in the door, and he's like, "What's going on?" And I tell him I took a hit from a Hana, and he immediately goes over to the refrigerator, pulls out a rack of King Cobra antivenom, and we have, they're called poppers. You literally, you push the antivenom vial into it, slam it into the person's arm or into their thigh, and it immediately just injects almost that entire vial due to with CO2. And he started doing that. And the general rule of thumb is that you keep giving antivenom till you start seeing an effect. Once you start seeing an effect or a turnaround from someone with the antivenom, that's when you're going to start slowing down on how much you're pumping into them. Because if you pump too much in, it can actually cause just as much damage. I remember that. I remember them getting me ready. They've bandaged up the site. They're going to put very absorbent like swabs on there, and then you're going to lightly wrap it with like an ACE bandage, and hopefully that's going to help to keep drawing more and more of the venom out of you. I remember them getting me up. It took about 15 minutes for the ambulance to get there. This was in a remote location. And the ambulance got there. I remember getting onto the stretcher. I remember being loaded into the ambulance, and then everything went dark. And, at that point, I don't remember anything at that point until suddenly it was like a flash, a bolt of lightning had hit me. There was this huge white flash, and then the next thing you know, I come to and I'm gasping for air. I can see my hands are literally like this. And I look and I can see the EMT is pulling away with the defibrillator paddles at that point. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I just looked around. They're like, okay, he's back. And, I can hear the siren. I can feel the how rough the road is they're driving on. I could tell they're driving really fast. Next thing I know, it just goes black again. And at that point, the next thing that happens is, again, I get that lightning effect and get just complete disorientation. Next thing you know, I'm popping up, and I literally sat up and I'm in a hospital bed in the emergency room, and they just hit me with the paddles for the second time. And I remember looking around, I see the doctors, I see the nurses, and next thing you know, I pass out and I wake up in the hospital room, and it's 2 days later. They ended up having to put about 15 vials of antivenom, full vials, into me before they started showing an effect on it. Heart stopped twice during that time period. And, I literally have voids where I don't know anything, but everybody's told me, at one point, while I don't remember what was going on, my eyes were open. I was talking to everybody, but I have no recollection of whatsoever of talking to anyone. But everyone says that I was talking, I was communicating, I was able to answer questions, but to me, I have no reference point of that at all. And I ended up spending another 2 weeks in the hospital. And during that time, I had things that happened, like something called hypersensitivity. And it got to the point where if you just came in and you said, "Hey, John, how you doing?" talking in a very low voice, it sounded like you were screaming in my ears. They had to come in and put as much fabric and plastic or whatever they could over the windows, around the door, everything, because even the least little bit of light was like someone was shining the sun right in my eyes. And it got to the point where a friend of mine actually brought in a welding helmet so that I could sit there and see without it absolutely blinding me. And then on top of that, if someone touched me, it felt like they were literally just dragging their nails into my skin, or like they were, using a rasp on my arm or something. It was just an absolutely horrible situation. Everything. I could hear people down the hallway talking. My sense of smell, I was constantly vomiting because I could smell things from other rooms, and every nerve in my body was just firing at hyper speeds. And it slowly started coming down, and things started getting better. I started regaining the proper sensitivity and everything. Oh, it was an interesting time, Daniel. It was interesting. But the thing is that when I came out on the other side, it's really weird because I have such strange things with my left arm. I took the copperhead bite here, and then I took the cobra bite here. And so I have these really strange things with my left arm. If someone just rakes me with their nail, like when Roscoe will get me and he'll hit me with his paw, it'll literally open me up and make me bleed on that arm. No other part of my body does that. But on my left arm, the skin feels like it is so thin that it bleeds real bad. If Roscoe comes up and jumps on me, it'll literally leave blood blisters on my arm. I have these patches where you can see the blood pooled up underneath the skin, like right here. And these are just from very minor things that have happened. And dermatologist says there's nothing they can do about it. They said it's all from the venom and what it did. Also, that was my second time getting antivenom. I've now had antivenom 3 times, and the problem is that with the antivenom, I can't have it anymore. Uh, if I do, I can go into what's called anaphylaxis, and that's pretty much going to kill me. I have to keep an EpiPen with me if I'm going to, go back to actively handling venomous snakes like that, or I'm just going to have to be prepared for the fact that if I get bit again, there's nothing that can be done about it. Just have to deal with the damage that's going to come with it. Yeah. Inappropriate. I literally have cobra DNA in my body. Also have horse DNA in me from the antivenom, because that's where they make the antivenom from. They take very healthy horses, and horses have an amazing ability to, their body gets used to and can counteract things like venom. So they give them these dosages, and then every so often they pull blood from them. They separate the blood into its different elements, and they're able to make the antivenom from it. Now, I don't have any superpowers, love it. As a matter of fact, now at 55, I feel like I've lost a lot of powers, but yeah, it's amazing. Oh, I already have it. Have it. Just the wife hasn't had a chance to collect on it yet, but I'm stupid enough. I'll give her a reason. Let's see. No, bat goat, it's not going to happen. I'm not laying off. That's my deal. I love snakes. As a matter of fact, my next one's going to be probably a pygmy rattlesnake. I really like the Carolina Duskies that have a real beautiful red coloring in them. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to discover my superpowers. You know how it is. They say face for radio and a voice for printed word. So I don't think I really have any superpowers at this point. So, Duncan, you got any questions there, bud?
Yeah, that was fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. That's crazy. I mean, I have to say, you got freaking balls, dude, to go in back into that environment. I would not. I mean, I'm not afraid of snakes generally. I know a lot of people are, but to get that close to death and have lost your fear of them and go right back in there, that is crazy. I give you credit for that.
Well, it's one of those things, and I think it comes from taking that first bite when I was a child. Is I lost the phobia or intense fear that most people have of snakes. You can't even show my mom a picture of a snake, and she's freaking out. So, well, thank you, Suzanne. Says my superpower is the ability to share my story with openness. Yeah, that's been one of my big things for a long time. Is I got nothing to hide. There are a lot of things that I I keep a lot of my personal life private, and that's just because that's how I am. My actual friends and close friends, they know me well enough. But for the most part, as we've seen, there are certain people that get out there on the internet and especially on these channels and things like that, and they try to find anything that they can about you personally that they can use against you. So I've preferred to stay somewhat private on most of my personal life there. Let's see, what happened whilst you were out? Did you have any weird experiences and dreams? I had all kinds of crazy dreams. I didn't have the experience. I know people talk about, they saw a light, or they saw a tunnel. I remember a story of one man talking about he believed he had actually gone to hell, and they were talking about, I didn't have that. Literally for me, it was everything went black, and then suddenly when they hit me with the defibrillator paddles, that's when I came back. I saw a flash of light, and I know it was the electricity going through my nerve endings that was causing me to feel that. But I had weird dreams, psychedelic dreams, and they're saying that they say that's from the venom itself. Having spoken with other people who have been kissed by a cobra or an elapid, and a elapid is generally a snake that has fixed fangs, whereas your rattlesnakes, copperheads, water moccasin, any kind of viper, their fangs will stay retracted, and then when they go to bite, they'll come out like that. And that's why you'll see the pictures of like rattlesnakes and things like that, where it looks like they're yawning and you see their teeth flopping back and forth. What they're doing is they're readjusting after having made a bite or after eating, and they have to get their teeth readjusted so they don't keep stabbing themselves in the mouth. And so when it comes to elapids, they're generally what is called a neurotoxic venom. Now, vipers can have neurotoxic, but most commonly they're known to have hemotoxic. Neurotoxic, of course, travels along the nerve endings. And the goal of neurotoxic venom is to shut down the lungs, the heart, any of the major organs, and render the victim, dead. With the hemotoxic, what it does is it destroys tissue, and it literally is like digesting the prey from the inside out. So that's if you're asking about different things like that, that's what the venoms do. Generally, anyone I've talked to who's been bitten by an elapid, they experience the same thing I did, where it's just some really, really weird, intense psychedelic type dreams. So, and if you think about it like mushrooms and things like that, those are basically a toxin you're taking into your body, and it's enough that it's not going to kill you. But what happens is it causes you to have these psychedelic sensations and things like that. So, let's see, who was it? I think it was, Maggot was wanting to know if I had any experience with spitting cobras. Yeah, I've worked with, I believe, almost every species of venomous snake that there are, and I've done a lot of work with spitters. Spitters are they're just like other cobras. They a whole lot of attitude, buttload of attitude, and they'll put on a real good bluff show. But when it comes time, they'll lay that kiss on you in a heartbeat. The difference is that with most snakes on the fang, the hole is going to be on the back side. So when they bite in, it's going to inject like that. With spitters, the hole is on the front of the fang, and so they just squeeze their venom glands, and it forces the venom into the fangs like a hypodermic syringe. But instead of it being shot down into where the hole is made a cavity, it squirts it out. And as they grow, they become they're snipers. They know to target the eyes and face of an animal. You have to be very careful. If you get bit, if you get a spray in your eyes, it can end up blinding you. Now I've been sprayed in the mouth by spitting cobras, and it's literally, snake venom is literally saliva that's been modified throughout time. So I've had it sprayed in my mouth. It doesn't taste good. Yeah, I'm trying to spit it out, but swallowing it doesn't affect you. Or, for most of them, it's not going to affect you if you swallow the venom. it has to actually find its way into the skin or into an orifice like the eyes, where it'll get in and seep right into your vessel, your blood vessels, or into the nerves of the eye. And then with that, you also have to be aware, because I do a lot of metal work, things like that. So I always have scrapes and cuts on my hands, and I have to be careful. So if I'm dealing with something like a spitter and that venom comes out, then if I have an open wound that hasn't been tended to, that is an entry point for the venom that can actually get in, and I can become envenomated without even being bitten. The thing is I think that I had I had and still do have a sense of every breath I take is a gift. And everyone has their own belief systems, their own spiritual or religious beliefs. I'm Christian. I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Bible. So for me, every breath that I've taken since then has been a gift from God. That's how I look at it. I don't really look at it, I know some people, they feel emboldened, things like that. I've always been insane. I do the absolute stupidest stuff that I shouldn't be doing. And there's a whole lot of hold my beer and watch this kind of moments in my life. And, now at 55 years old, I'm really paying that price for it. But I think that it's made me much more humble and much more appreciative of what I have in my life. So what else you got there, Duncan?
Oh, you've covered a lot of ground here. This is great. I mean, yeah, I was curious. Like, you didn't actually, I mean, I think you were actually fortunate in that you had very quick response time, and you were well prepared in the environment you're working in to respond to these kinds of accidents. So you
Right.
were brought back before you had, a real out of body experience where you would have been maybe hard to get back.
Right.
But you came right to that
Well,
knife edge, I would say.
and I'm one of those people that it's rare in the fact that my heart stopped twice. They had to use a defibrillator on me twice. Most people, it's the singular event that happens to them. And where you have with me, I have actual two instances within the same incident itself where it would be, and it's all dependent on the medical establishment and the time. I mean, had it been 10, 15 years before and my heart had stopped, then it would have been a case where I would have been declared as dead. And then, coming back is a different thing. But, now they just look at it as it's a cardio event. My heart stopped, and they were able to bring it back through the use of defibrillation. And love it. There's been, between the three bites that I've had, I always notice that there are differences in me, not just my mental, the way that I look at things, but also physically. It's taken a real toll on my body. And when I have young people that are asking me about getting into handling venomous snakes, I can't tell anybody what to do with their life, and I certainly don't try to. If I know someone's doing something that is going to be absolutely horrid, or it's going to be something that's going to take a chance of putting them in prison for the rest of their life, of course I'm going to do everything I can to stop them. And that's how I feel with the venomous snakes. But I also understand that drive that someone would have to want to be around these animals, handle them, and deal with them. So, on one hand, I'm trying to do what I can to keep them from ending up like me, where they've had just unimaginable pains in their lives. To I understand exactly why they're not going to listen to me. So, yeah, that's the difference in me. Is I think I've gone more from, the physical differences, but I've gone more towards I'm more into a mentoring role now than I was before. So. Let's see. And Marjan, well, I mean, it's all dependent. If you're talking about the tops of the venom triangle, the top venomous snakes in the world, then of course Australia has the worst. their taipans, their king browns, or their mulga snakes, whichever you want to call it. They have so many different species of very, very, they call them defensive, but I'm going to tell you, when you're out and you're dealing with a wild taipan in Australia, they are very aggressive. They are very offensive. They will come at you and they will keep trying to strike at you and trying to keep getting you until you either run away or you've worn them out enough that they run off. But then again, you go into Southeast Asia, you have anywhere from 2 to 5 different species of cobra there. And then you have a huge selection of ground dwelling vipers, and then you have tree dwelling vipers. And some of them, like the Malaysian pit viper, is the snake that everyone came back from Vietnam talking about, the it bit snake or the two-step snake. And what they thought was they'd see someone get bitten by this snake, and they would almost instantly drop to the ground and look like the snake bite had killed them. Well, what happens is with the Malaysian pit viper, the venom is so toxic that it overloads the system and it literally collapses the person. Their heart will actually slow down to the point where you can barely even notice a heartbeat in them. And it'll take anywhere from a half hour to an hour, sometimes 4 hours before you're able to get back up. And by that time, the envenomation has been strong enough that it's causing major damage throughout the body. Then you can go to Africa. And we all know about Africa. They have several different species of your elapids. You have the cobras, you have the black mambas, you have the green mambas, Jacobson's mambas. Then you have the puff adders, you have the gaboon and rhinoceros vipers. And those are the two species known for having the longest fangs in the world. And in that same family, the Bitis family of venomous snake, they are also known as the fastest striking species of snake in the world. And then you look at them and they're like the copperheads here in America, where you can literally be walking along and walk right past a gaboon viper. And I'm telling you, a gaboon viper's head, a fully grown one, will be like that. They're huge. And it'll be laying right there in the leaves and you'll never even see it. That's how good these snakes are camouflaged. Then you have your black mambas. You know, I know of a story in Africa where a young man had walked a herd of, I think it was 20 cattle down to the stream to get them watered. On the way back, as they're walking through, he watches the second cow drop, and then the third cow drop, and he started watching his cattle were just dropping and dying right there. And as he went back to find out what's going on, he looks up in a tree, and there's literally a black mamba in the tree that's just reaching down and tapping the cattle on the back. And because it's where it's biting them, it's right by the spine or right into the spine. And the venom is taking effect so quickly that it's just dropping the cattle 20, 30 feet away. You've got those kinds of snakes. So when you ask where's the worst, it could be pretty much anywhere in this country. You can go into the mountains of Georgia and they have an offshoot of the species of the canebrake or the timber rattlesnake, Crotalus horridus, that has both hemotoxic and neurotoxic venom, and it's unbelievably potent. Pygmy rattlesnakes, whereas they're tiny, have a highly concentrated kind of venom. So anywhere where you're going to be dealing with venomous snakes, that's the worst area. It's like when people ask me, what is the worst snake to get bitten by? And I go, the worst snake to get bitten by is the one that just bit you. It doesn't matter. A rattlesnake can kill you just like a king cobra can kill you. A pygmy rattlesnake can kill you just like a black mamba. It's the snake that bit you is the worst bite you've ever had. So, it's like you hear about people saying, well, what's it feel like getting stabbed? What was the worst you ever had? Well, every time you get stabbed is the worst time you've ever been stabbed. So that's how it is. It's all a personal and dependent thing. Green Mojave, those are beautiful, but boy, they're snipers and they have amazingly fast acting venom. I love green Mojaves, especially when you get a true green phase Mojave. They are beautiful snakes. Then you start getting into the diamondbacks. The easterns are the largest rattlesnake in the world. That's the largest bodied rattlesnake in the world. Get into South America, and you start getting into the Bothrops families, where you have the fertilances, you have the lance heads, those kinds of snakes. They're all within the same family. And oh my goodness, the venom is crazy. Susie Q, venom extraction, we do that because there is so many different things that are going on with snake venom. There are the possibilities. They're looking into pain relief. That's a non-narcotic, non-addictive pain relief that comes from enzymes and proteins within certain species of snake venom. They found that, and I was talking about like the lance heads and the fertilances in the Bothrops family. They were finding that the venom from them actually kills the COVID germ. So they were trying to find ways of doing that. And then on top of it, it is a matter of, I mean, when I was doing it, 1 ounce of freeze-dried king cobra venom was worth around $7,000. Now you'd have to milk 200-300 snakes to get to that point, but that's what it was. Let's see. Marjan, Arizona, and Kentucky, Diamondbacks. And that's one of the things is most of the time with, like, if you live here in the States, most of the time, unless you're stepping on them, messing with them, stuff like that, you're not going to see them striking at you. I took what's called a dry bite from a timber rattlesnake in Kentucky walking along, and I know that I either had to have stepped on it or I startled it. Those are the only reasons it bit me, and it didn't inject me. It did what was called a dry bite, where it just bit and let go without injecting. Let's see. Yeah, they say that you have to be careful with the baby snakes because they, the general myth about it is that they don't know how to control the amount of venom that they put out, and that's just it's not true. Snakes appear to be born with a general sense that you want to inject as little venom as possible because you don't know how long it's going to be before your body regenerates the venom. So that's why, like with me, I got a dry bite. That snake didn't need to release venom. It just needed me to get away from it. So those are the things that you'll see with that. Creepy, correct. Michigan doesn't have a lot of, we do have a lot of snakes, non-venomous. The only venomous snake that is native to Michigan is the Massasauga, which is a species of pygmy rattlesnake. But and as I said, we've got right out the back of my property. There's some marshland there next to the river, and we've had a breeding pair there for about 2 or 3 years now. Yeah, Daniel. When there for a long time, the thought is that snakes were deaf. Now there's some different thought processes that they may not be. I do know that with king cobras, they put out a growl, and that you can put 2 king cobras in rooms that are side by side, and one king cobra will do that growling, hissing noise, and the other one will instantly take notice and hood up and get up there on their stand up like you see. Pitch black, yep. Skin graft, yep, that happens a lot. With my finger, it turned black, and they were surprised. I didn't have to get a skin graft on it, but yeah, that's a typical thing. And with I believe you said it was a diamondback, which is in the along the same lines as the copperhead. Their venom is hemotoxic, so what it's doing is it's destroying the muscular tissue. As I said, it's basically digesting you before they get to you. I got drive by on from a timber rattlesnake. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. And I'm joking, they're not fun, but I do enjoy working with venomous snakes. I think that let's see, have I ever discussed the bites with any Native Americans? They have interesting beliefs. As being, I've said it before. I believe the DNA testing showed I was 63% Cherokee Indian. I've grown up around the Cherokee Nation. It's the eastern band of the Cherokee Nation in your Appalachias. And there's a lot of different belief structures going into it. And, as with most of the Native Americans, in the original beliefs, they believe that all of nature is connected, that there's spiritualism and there is almost godlike qualities or angel-like qualities within the spirits of the animals. But they, pretty much, up until these modern times, if you got a snake bite, and it didn't matter if you were Native American or you were a colonizer or you were somewhere else in the world, a snake bite either meant you were going to lose a finger, a hand, an arm, a leg, or you were going to die from it, because there was just no real way of treating it. And I think, like in the new version of the True Grit movie that came out a few years back, where they show the actual how it was in the book, where the girl had been bitten by the rattlesnake while she'd fallen down in that hole, where she actually ended up losing her arm at the elbow. That was the reality of the times. They would cut them off. It's like you would see in The Walking Dead. Someone would get bitten on their hand, and they would lop the arm off to stop it from spreading through the rest of the body. That's a real thing, and that's how they used to do it.
And I remember in Boy Scouts in the old days, they would just show you cut the X with a knife and just suck the venom out as best you could, and that was about all you could.
And we know now that actually doesn't do much of anything. You can't extract enough venom out to really make a difference with it. That's why, like, we had the poppers that would the vacuum forms that would go over, and they were such a strong vacuum suction device that it pulled a lot of venom out. And of course, the frame of mind is the less amount of venom that you have in you is the less amount to kill you.
It looks like some of the snakes you're describing actually would inject that. Like as soon as those fangs went in, they would actually inject the venom right into your body under some force. Is that?
If you watch venom extraction videos, you'll see when they bring the snake up and the snake's fangs come over the top of the beaker and through the membrane. You watch it literally squirts out. Their fangs are like hypodermic syringes, and they have the venom glands will actually contract and force the venom out into the fangs and into whatever they're biting. So yeah, that's one of the things a lot of people really didn't understand. They didn't understand it until modern times. That's how these things that's how they work. They knew that they bit, but they couldn't understand how they were getting the venom in you. And then they started realizing, okay, well, the fangs are hollow like a syringe. They're very sharp. They're breaking the skin. And once they get into the skin, they thought it was just like a matter of gravity pulling it in. Then they realized, watching snakes as they would bite their prey, you could actually see the venom glands contract and restrict on the side of the head. So then they started realizing, hey, when these things are biting, they're actually shooting the venom in. So let's see. Suzanne, it's just who I am. I don't think I'm brave or anything like that. As Duncan had said before, I always try to be empathetic and very considerate of others in how I live my life. So if sharing my story helps others, you've had an experience or a journey that you don't quite understand, and it kind of, you're trying to figure things out, just need to realize that there's a lot of us who've been through experiences, sharing our experiences. And if it helps someone, then that's, to me, that's worth all of it. Love it. I have been bitten. Well, when you count the dry bites, I think I've been bitten 5 times now. The dry bites have almost always happened in some of the weirdest situations, and they're never when I'm handling snakes or dealing with them. Marjan, I believe that pretty much any state that has active breeding populations of venomous snakes will have anti-venom. There's, pretty much anyone who deals with and actively works with venomous snakes, I'll just be straightforward. You're an idiot if you are handling venomous snakes, keeping them, taking care of them, and you don't have anti-venom specific to that snake on hand. So I don't worry about whether the hospital's got it. I worry about whether or not I have it in my stock and ready to go. So when the ambulance gets there or they're loading me in the car, I'll have that a literal tray of antivenom that goes with me wherever I'm going.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you have much time to respond when those things happen.
Right. You have to. It's much like with, people talk about with using a firearm as a police officer, and the constant training and the updating that you're doing with it. And what you're doing is you're creating this muscle memory, and you're creating a way that you do things so that when something actually happens, instead of trying to have to think through it, you automatically click in. Okay, secure the snake, start treatment, get the antivenom ready, make sure that 911's been called, that they understand that you are the victim of a venomous snake bite. And then you start going from there. And you do this enough, and you prepare for it, you practice it. And when the time comes, you're not sitting there going, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? No, we literally have an envenomation chart that is kept everywhere that I've been with that had venomous snakes, or I was dealing with them, had an envenomation chart right by the door, or somewhere clearly visible, that gave you all the steps to go through and how that they handle envenomations in their own facility. In my place, I have all of my stuff set up out there. I have it printed out, ready to go. I have it laminated. And then I generally have that right by where the refrigerator is going to be, where the antivenom is going to be stored. Let's see. A friend of mine was bitten. They said that it was $8,000 per bag of antivenom, one bag per 10
Man.
pounds of body weight. Yeah, that's not unusual. That's not unusual, but it's not going to be it's not going to be per bag. Antivenom is generally put into is in vials, like you'd see the vials where they'd stick the needle in. If you've ever seen World War Z, where Brad Pitt is going through all the different viruses and things like that, and drawing them out to try on himself. That's literally how it looks. It's a glass little jar about yay big. It has a rubber topper on it and a metal band that goes around that hold that topper in place. And with antivenom, you keep them in the refrigerator, and you keep them at a certain temperature. And yes, they do expire at some point. But yeah, about every vial, I think, when with the king cobra bite, that was I think that they were right around $15,000 per vial of antivenom. So yeah, you can rack up a bill very quickly with it. I had the wife calling in. I don't know why. She knew I was going to be doing this live stream. So let's see.
You've given us quite an education about snakes. I never would have guessed. I mean, up where we live in Vermont here, I think I've only seen like things like corn snakes and things that look like they could be threatening, but supposedly up in the hills, there's the occasional copperhead or timber rattler or whatever. But I, I think I've seen a rattler once or twice when I was hiking and up near cliffs, because that seems to be where they hang out. But when I
Yeah.
was a kid, my older brother was fascinated by snakes, and this is when we were little kids. So we would go in the fields and woods, flipping over rocks and boards, and he'd collect snakes. And I remember one time my mom was kind of horrified because he had a snake sale to the neighborhood kids, and the kids came home to their parents, and we were getting some phone calls. It
Oh
was
yeah.
a snake sale. So, but luckily none of these were. We had garter snakes and little green snakes and ringneck snakes, and
You have to be careful, because now a lot of species of snakes are becoming endangered, or they're actually on the list saying that you can't touch them, you can't mess with them. We have I believe it's a fox snake here, the Massasauga. They're literally do not touch. All right, you observe them, don't mess with them, let them go, because you can get in a lot of trouble with the site. They call it CITES, which is with the Endangered Species Act and different things like that. You can spend a lot of time in jail, and I'm talking decades in jail, and pretty much bankrupt you because of the costs of the prosecution and everything. It's crazy.
game people can be pretty tough. I mean, they'll be harder than cops on normal, crime, street crime.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Do not think we have poisonous snakes in Massachusetts. I have picked up many garden snake. I think you do have, if I remember correctly, I think you do have some of the timber rattlesnake. You have those. You have the water moccasin and or the cottonmouth and the copperhead. But you're going to have to go really, really rural to find those a lot in Massachusetts. I know up where Clearwater Chad lives, In the Brooklyn area, they have copperheads up there and also timbers. You're going to find them more towards hill type area with rocky outcrops, those kinds of things. And that's because those species of snakes, when it comes time to hibernate for the year, they're going to go back into these dens way back in the hills. Dansma, I'm over by uh, Detroit Metro Airport, so you're not too far away from me. Came out to take a break outside of school building one day, and there was a 7-foot coiled up. Well, that's not going to be a Michigan rattlesnake. Michigan rattlesnakes, I've never seen one over 3 feet in length. That's probably going to be either a fox or a wolf snake. They look extremely similar to the Massasauga, but as of right now, and I was talking with the herpetology guy from Michigan Department of Natural Resources, or DNR, not too long ago, and it's still holding true that I think the record was just over 3 feet, like 3 feet 2 inches for a Massasauga. But it's very easy to have it to mix it up. People see it, and if you're, I mean, like with me, it's even hard for me to sit there and look at a Massasauga next to a standard pygmy or a dusky, and it's crazy, and it's easily done. And don't feel bad if you thought you recognize one species and you didn't. Here in America, coral snakes. The old adage is red touch yellow, red touch black, friend of Jack, red touch yellow, kill a fellow. But you start getting into South America, and there's no yellow, it's white, it's all all dependent. Also, people say, well, the venomous snakes, here in America, venomous snakes will have an arrow-shaped head. Well, you look at a common brown water snake, it has almost an arrow-shaped head. It looks very much like a venomous snake. It has a very dark patterned brown coloration with black mixed in through it, and it very easily mistaken for a water moccasin. Let's see. When I was a kid, I saw a huge snake in the old house in Iran. Yeah, and you've got some nasty, nasty vipers over there. You've got your horned vipers. You've got your sand vipers. You've got a lot of different nasty ones over there in that portion of the world. So yeah, I know. Whew. Let's see. You might be hearing Roscoe. He's outside the door whining right now.
Yeah, it's not coming from my end. I'm surprised.
Rural Nevada, high desert mountains. Oh yeah, you got snakes. Yeah, and that's the thing is you don't have to be afraid of them. Just give them their due respect there, and due care and caution with them, and make sure when you're out, you're watching for the signs of them. Rattlesnakes. Here's what's really interesting is they're finding in areas with huge coyote populations that rattlesnakes have stopped rattling in those areas. And most of the time rattlesnakes won't they don't rattle when they're hunting and their prey is nearby. But now it is the coyotes are learning that the rattlesnakes where they're at simply because of the sound of the rattle, and they're going after them there. So yeah, it's you just got to be careful. An old adage that holds true to this day is if you're walking through the woods and you smell a strong smell of cucumbers, more than likely you're near a copperhead, because they will do something that's called a musking, and they will push this liquid out of their body, and it has a very strong odor of cucumbers or rotten cucumbers. So, of course, we all know about water moccasins, cottonmouths. They will flop their head back, open their mouth up, and it will be a brilliant white color inside their mouth. And that's a display that they'll give you, letting you know, you come messing around, you come any closer, I'm going to give you a love kiss. So, let's see. Marshawn. Yeah. Throughout my travels in the Middle East, I saw a lot of snakes. You got to remember, wherever I go, I'm going to go to areas where I think snakes will be, and I'll go in times of day and night when I think that they're going to be out and about. One of the best things that I ever do is I'll go out in the middle, right after dusk into early evening, when it's nice and dark out, and just start driving down the roads real slow. And you wouldn't believe how many snakes you see that are getting onto the road to get that last little bit of heat for the day. So let's see. Daniel, I think it might be because of the bite. I can't stand cucumbers. I can't. They actually make me retch. Let's see. What was Miss? I have lifelong friends and neighbors, a family that would always catch snakes. We found and kept them as pets. Didn't keep venomous snakes as they didn't have the right containers. But they always come to remove them for us and would take them somewhere where they're less likely to come into contact with humans. And that's the proper thing to do. When I was running the rescue here, if it was a indigenous species of snake that I was dealing with, it in Michigan, indigenous species, first thing that I would do was I'd contact DNR. We would get a confirmation on the species of the snake and see what's going to be the proper handling procedure with it. With the, if it's not an indigenous species, then I would do my identification, make sure that it's, again, not an endangered species, and then we go from there. There's a lot of places that are venom extraction labs, or they are places that have them on display that you can put them into, or I have friends in different areas where they can literally take the animal, they'll put them through the quarantine phase, and then release them way into the wild where they shouldn't come in contact with people again. Let's see, a lot of coyotes around here, so it's been going around. The people are finding silent rattlers. Yep, exactly what else what we were talking about, and that's kind of crazy, And if you notice, dogs especially they can get bit by a venomous snake and they take it and they'll get sick for a few days and then they're right back to it. And I know we had a beagle that got hit by a copperhead, and it put him down for about 3 days, and then it was like nothing happened. Let's see, very common in our neighborhood growing up to hear someone yelling, "Peter, come get this snake." Yeah, well, that was me. One of the things I always did around our property, because we had copperheads and we had timber rattlesnakes around. They haven't seen water moccasin in that area of eastern Kentucky in probably 30 years now. There hasn't been a documented case of it. But what I would do is I'd go out in the woods and I would find the biggest, meanest black snakes, which black snakes are a king snake. Any snake designated a king eats other snakes. So I would go out and get as many of these, the biggest, meanest black snakes that I could find, and then I would release them around the barn. I would release them around, all around our property. And the reason for that is if you have those there, you don't have copperheads, you don't have timber rattlesnakes, because they're going to go through and they're going to eat them. They're going to clear it out, and then they're also going to take. If you're on a farm, you have rats no matter what, because of the feed and everything else. Animals are sloppy and careless with their food, so there's going to be stuff for rats to eat. Having the black snakes around starts clearing them out pretty quick. You don't have so much of a problem with it. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah. I pretty much got what you had with it, but I was just saying, since that point, cucumbers make me nauseous. Okay. Your most common venomous snake is copperheads. Copperheads, very, very easy to not see, very easy to walk right by and not even know they're there. They'll lay dormant right there on the side of a path. You'll walk right by them. You won't even see them. Their camouflage blends in so well with the leaf work and all that. You probably have passed by them more times than you can think of and not even know they're there. I know I have. Let's see. Last few years, there's been people coming to town to put on a clinic to train dogs for rattler avoidance. Yeah. And you know what sucks about that, pup, is with the rattlesnakes not rattling like they used to, that takes one more aspect of being able to train the dog not to go around the rattlesnake. And that's a sad thing. Let's see. We had a resident black snake that hung out in our garage. We left him alone and named him Phil. So many stories. Yeah. And that's the thing is once the king snakes get used to you, they're very easy to deal with. I personally had a king cobra that was 15 foot that I worked with, and it was mine, and worked with it for a long time. I could literally go into his enclosure. He had about a 15 by 10 enclosure. I could go in and literally he wouldn't even move. Go in, lift one half of his body up, put it over on the other half of the room, go up, get the other half of his body, move it over, clean all the substrate out, lay new substrate down, move him over onto the new stuff, clean it out. He wouldn't even move, didn't care. But you let somebody else come by the window, come by the door, come to the door, and you just unleash Satan, but they will get used to who you are.
Good watch.
Go ahead. Let's see. Peter taught his kids at a very early age to know the types of snakes, which ones were venomous. To this day, if I find a snake, I often call one of them, find out if it's venomous or not. Yeah. And there's a lot of resources that you have as well. Like I said, I think I've handled pretty much every species of venomous snake that there is. But even I will get a picture. Someone will send me a picture or something like that even I have trouble identifying. And there's people that I send them to because I don't work with them every day like I used to anymore. There are certain ones that, I can look at and go, oh, yeah, I know what that is. Let's see. Oh, love it still. Tripping over cobras could be 15 foot. Oh, yeah. Well, you get down into South America with the bushmasters that are pushing in a 12 and 13 foot range. And those snakes are like a 99% mortality rate, even with the antivenom. And so imagine a rattlesnake, 12, 13 foot long, and the bite is, even if you have the antivenom, the fact is that the chances of you surviving are very slim. Grew up in Central Florida. I was once chased by a water moccasin on my bike. That's when I learned to respect them. And that's the thing is you hear people talking about, being chased by water moccasins, and oftentimes that's not true, because I've literally walked through swamps filled with water moccasins, never had one of them bother me. But I've also been walking down a trail and had a water moccasin come at me. And, as someone who works with those kinds of snakes, I know what they are. So I know what a water moccasin is. And there's a great video out. I forget what his name is. A young man who is out of Florida, works with venomous snakes. He has a very large, very thick water moccasin that you see him opening the enclosure, the snake striking out at him, strikes at him 2 or 3 times, and then literally leaps out of the enclosure trying to get at him. So yeah, people say, oh, they don't chase. Well, that it's, for the most part, yes, true. But sometimes first encounter was intense, but after that we were on a first name basis. I confided in him when everyone else peed me off. Nothing like doing laundry with a big noodle watching it. Yeah. And when you get into some of the Africa and into some of the Asian countries, they have pythons. The smaller species of pythons literally live in their rafters and things like that. And that's it's just a snake they have around the house. Let's see. Fun fact: Barbados does not have any venomous snakes. The mongoose was brought in to control the rats, and if there were any snakes, they were dinner. Yeah, the mongoose, my goodness. You talk about, hold on, let me get that monster. He's going nuts. All right, stop.
Oh, hey, thank you, Brown Spotted Eagle.
There we go. There we go, everybody. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. It's great to see you getting out here and doing this. And that's the thing is that a lot of people, especially when you get more rural, their ability to live with on a daily basis and deal with snakes, it becomes more, it's like it's a daily thing. It's part of their life. It's how things go. So it's not unusual at all. See, now you got you another star on your channel here, the old Roscoe himself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's jealous. He's a jealous one, and he will he lets you know. He was sitting out there whining for quite a while, and then finally he just started clawing at the door, and I don't want to be painting another door because of him.
Yeah. Hey, I don't want to tie you up too long. I definitely appreciate your coming on board here. And
oh, thank you. It's been an honor.
Yeah, no, this has been terrific. We got to talk about NDEs, and we also got a very good education about snakes, which is a very interesting subject. So it's all very cool. I want to thank everybody for coming on, and I do see there are some other NDEs. I've got a couple I'm also talking to that have offered to come on and do interviews. So being that this went very well, and I'm very thankful to John for sharing his story. If there's anyone else out there that would like to share something like that, uh, I'm very interested to hear your story too. And I thank you, John, for taking the time out. And
thank you for having me. Like I said, it's been an honor, and thank you so much for making me your first guest for this. I really am honored by it. I consider both you and Marilyn friends, and you're all part of the SPTV family. And anything we can do to help each other, that's the important thing. Is that if we're going to be a family and a community, we have to act like it and be out there to make sure that we're helping each other to keep going. Thank you, Susie. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is great. We get to know each other better by opening up and sharing our personal stories, which I find that very interesting, and learning people's philosophies and how they came to where they're at. It's all very good. Now I feel like we've gotten to know you a bit better than we ever have. I appreciate that. I will cut everybody loose, I think, just so we can all get back to what we might need to do and attend to our critters.
Yep, and I'll be doing a live tomorrow night, probably about 7 or 8 o'clock. I'm going to be talking about the Johnny Somali case, the Logan Paul case, and how these different streamers are affecting the ability of people like myself and other live streamers who go to different countries, and how these actions of these people who are doing it primarily to get clicks and to get views on their videos, what kind of damage they're doing to the rest of us in the streaming community. And I think that it's important that we get that out there. We can't let these folks be complete idiots and going out there and just doing these insanely insulting things to people in different countries, knowing that it's insulting and that it's adverse to the culture that they're in. So we need to, that's something I think we all need to confront. We need to make sure that people know it's not okay to be doing these things.
Yeah, we got to clean up our own community as best we can, and expose things that are just not correct. And
the sad thing is that these folks they're watching other people do it, and they're watching those people become millionaires doing this stuff. So in order to get to that point, they feel that they have to be much more intense. They have to be doing crazier things. A lot of people don't realize if you just put decent content out there and you put interesting things that people want to see, you don't have to do insane stuff. It's going to come to you naturally. You just have to have patience and be willing to put the time and effort into it.
Yeah, it's got to be about more than just money. I mean, I'm on here because it's interesting and exciting, and I want to learn and meet people and help people and whatever else. And if money comes out of it, that's great, but that's not my main motive. This is a learning and growth experience for me because I've never done anything like before. So it's fun to be part of this community. It's sort of very interesting how it all evolved. And
who would have thought two guys like us who are more of an outdoorsy type, who are, like working with our hands, like doing those kinds of things, would end up being guys who are on live streaming on YouTube, and especially at our ages that we're doing this stuff.
Yeah. That's cool. Spend more time it's in the winter, it's cold outside, it's snowing, more time in the house, especially like you're saying, we get older and we don't want to be out there framing houses in January. I used to do that. Now I'm like, I'd rather sit in here and drink coffee and be on YouTube.
I gotta change. I'm not looking forward to it. I gotta change the hot water heat out in the house. Oh, I'm not a legend. Only in my own mind sometimes. Yeah, Daniel, but the problem is that a lot of younger people, they like it. And that's how these folks are getting these big hits and things like that. Now, this guy may never be allowed to be back in Japan. They're saying, oh, well, he only had to pay a $1,300 fine. I'm gonna go into it more on my channel. But the damage that he did, and the way that people are now looking at foreign live streamers in Japan, and I'm hearing it from my friends in Thailand, I'm hearing it from my friends all over the world. After this incident, people are really starting to scrutinize those who are doing the live streams, especially on the streets and things like that in different countries. And it's going to have an impact on all of us because of what they've done.
Yeah, that's too bad. Well, everybody, if you can, tune in and we'll watch John and hear what he has to say about this, because again, if we don't police our own ranks, who will?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it just makes us all look bad.
So, all right. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and I hope you all come back to John's channel and mine. I'll post,
Absolutely.
hoping in the next few weeks, if at all possible, do like one N.D.E type interview each week. It seemed like this isn't a bad time to be on. Maryland's sort of default time to be on is like 11 in the morning very often. I'm okay with this kind of time of day or early evenings. So it's like we'll kind of throw things out there when we're not competing with the rest of the YouTube world, if possible. But again, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Very enjoyable and very informative. And we will see you all again soon.
Excellent. Have a good one, folks.
Take care.